So the movie you just saw tells the story of how the climate crisis is connected to the refugees flowing out of Syria. There was a study last year that predicts in this century there may be as many as 1 billion climate refugees coming from areas that are drought-stricken, areas that are devastated by drought and fire, floods. Well, look at Puerto Rico, devastated by a hurricane, and there have been, I don't know how many 100,000 people from Puerto Rico have become climate refugees already. And if that number grows to 1 billion, you know, what are we going to do? Well, we have to make plans to take care of these people. Welcome the stranger, welcome the refugee. That's what my faith tradition teaches me. But my political experience tells me that it's going to be a hell of a challenge for many political systems in the world. One of the reasons for this wave of populist authoritarianism I mentioned earlier in Europe, for example, is the anti-immigrant, you know, it gets to a certain level, then people who sometimes surprise you will say, oh, that's too many, we've got to crank down. And so you get repercussions in the political world. You take even something like Brexit, you know, that's the thing that, name they use for the United Kingdom in England, where they decide to vote to pull out of Europe. The most powerful billboard they had during that campaign was a billboard showing an endless line of refugees from the Middle East and North Africa at the gates of Europe. And it said, Europe, the EU has failed us. This is a very destabilizing political force that we ignore at our peril. But, I mean, India has already completed the largest steel fence in the world on its southern border with Bangladesh, because the refugees from the southern part of the delta areas of Bangladesh, you know, the same week Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston, 1/3 of Bangladesh was underwater. We had 50 centimeters over and above the normal monsoon in South Asia, and it's getting worse on a regular basis. So you're dead on in calling attention to this, and the world's political leaders need to wake up and realize they're going to be in a world of hurt if we don't forestall the rapid development of this crisis. Now let me say, since it appears we've run out of time, I want to call attention again to Bonnie Cohen and John Shank, and I want to say to you, and some of you here are from the movie industry, I'm pretty biased in my assessment of what Bonnie and John have done. But if you step back and think, you know, the incredibly dangerous parts of this threat, that's a hard story to tell right there. The incredibly hopeful opportunities that we now have available to solve it. The political momentum in Paris. Trump comes to power. Then the rest of the world and most of the U.S. says, well, we're not going to let him stop us. We're going to keep moving. All those elements in one story, compressed and entertaining, that's an awesome task. And it's not for me to brag on what they've done, but I've just done it anyway. And the one element, I'll close with this, that what has resulted is a depiction of reality. This is the world we're facing now, and we've got to solve this. I think we will. But the one element we most need is political will to take the solutions and put them in effect to solve the crisis. Now, political will is itself a renewable resource, but the mission and purpose of this movie you've just seen is precisely that, to help renew the political will that we need to solve this crisis. So I want to thank Bonnie and John and Diane and Richard and all the people that worked on this movie. And Tina, thank you for talking with me on stage here. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate the time and the opportunity. I think for the end of this, the thing that I take away from this and you take away from this is that your voice matters, your vote matters, And if we really want to do something about climate change, we have to be willing to act and get beyond our base and our narrative that we speak to each other as climate fighters, to let people know that this really does matter, and that's what this film does, and that's what you're doing. So thank you very much, and thank you all for coming.
Thank